So, Rishma, will you start with the recording, please? Or should we just wait a few more minutes for a few more people to join us?
We've actually hit record.
Oh, you have? Great. Cool. Okay. So, how's your morning doing, Heather?
Good. Crazy. I've had some parenting things coming up this morning myself. The whole
No
getting them to
coincidence.
school. Yeah. It's like, oh gosh, getting them to school and all of that stuff. So
Oh yeah, right.
one of the funnest times for parenting is when you have to get your children to school.
Absolutely. Tell me about it. My younger daughter's boards are starting tomorrow, day after, and I'm flying out to Rome tomorrow. And I'm like, am I really being a very irresponsible mom? Or do I just trust my daughter? I like to go with the second one.
Yeah, it usually creates more for everybody when you do that.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It does. Totally. Yeah. Okay, I think we're good to start. We have some wonderful people who've hopped on, and so welcome, Heather. Welcome to our, and it's so wonderful to have you on speaking about parenting on the Conversations of Parenting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'd love to actually ask you about your journey into Access and what got you to choose this class.
To choose
the Conscious Parents, Conscious Kids, to become a facilitator.
Yeah. It's funny. I realized, I've been doing Access for about 9 years, and so my kids were really little. My kids were, I guess 2 and 4, something like that, when I started Access. And I was, I was a single mom from the time when they were 1 and 3, so pretty early on. And I went to an advanced body class. It was my first class with Gary Douglas. And I had this really, really severe chronic back pain that wouldn't go away. And there were mornings where I couldn't even get my shoes on, and I had to take my kids to school. And I was like a yoga teacher. It was so weird. I'm like, my body doesn't do this kind of thing, Yeah. And so I asked Gary about it in the advanced body class, and he said, Truth, do you hate being a mom? And I was like, oh, my kids were my kids were there. And it was my first, it was like one of my first, my first class with him. I hadn't taken a ton of classes at that point. And I was like, I have to say yes right now, because you can't lie to Gary Douglas, Even
if you try.
Right. I knew that. I had never taken a class with him, but I knew that. And so I was like, yeah. And he said, well, hire somebody to do everything that you don't want to do. And I was like, oh my God, and it was so cool, because actually that conversation, coupled with a really amazing body process that came out during that class, then I had the process run, I had that conversation with him, and my body woke me up the next morning and was like, take me for a run right now. And
wow.
I'd had no pain, and I have not had back pain since then. And after that conversation, I started to create my life. I really started to create my life and my business, and I hired somebody, and I didn't have the money to hire somebody, but I did it. I created enough to pay him for the first week, and then we were off to the races. And this amazing young man came, and my kids loved him, and he was such a humanoid. He was willing to cook and clean and help me with my business and my website. And, my kid, he was sort of my everything guy for a little bit there. And, I mean, not quite everything.
I know. Absolutely. We're not asking.
So it was such a gift. And it really I started to be willing to be judged as a mom. I started to be willing to choose what was actually true for me as a mom. And, and I started to, like have allowance for me and what parenting actually was for me and what it was going to be for me. And, like really be willing to be a bad mom, really, really, really be willing to be a bad mom to the degree that I was willing to choose for me. And everything in my life changed at that point. Like my business started to explode and take off and everything changed. And, you know, I had never really thought about being a conscious parents, conscious kids facilitator. And, you know, maybe, I don't know, not even a year ago, I don't remember when it was. I was like, well, I have all the prereqs, and this actually is the area that I had to change in my life in order to create everything. So it was at the sort of foundation of, you know, like the creation of my business and the creation of more money and all of it. Like it came from this, you know, the parenting conversation. Because when we're not willing to have our reality as parents, and when we're not willing to honor us, and when we're doing everything from judgment and the judgment of this reality, we have to limit everything about our lives. All of our choices are limited. Everything that we get to do in the world is limited. Our business becomes limited. Our money flows become limited. Our bodies, you know, obviously my body was very limited. And it's really, you said this, Chandana, one time where you were like, the parenting is like the area where you can't mess up. Like you can mess up your business because it's just you. You can mess up your money flows because it's just you. But if you mess up parenting, you like mess up your children, you know?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Yeah. So everywhere that we've got that, do we do clearings here?
Yes.
Okay.
Totally.
So everywhere,
Absolutely. Go for it.
So anywhere that you have bought that you are responsible for the way your children turn out, even if it's just this much, will you destroy and uncreate it?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, fudge, shirts, boys and ones. And everywhere that you've limited you so that you don't fuck them up, will you destroy and uncreate that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, fudge, shirts, boys and ones.
You know, I find that so interesting because this is one area of our life. Even if you're willing to, I would say, I wouldn't want to use the word here that, speaking from with the access tools, even if you have the allowance for certain things showing up, but beyond that also, when you're looking at your kids, and when you're not willing to have the allowance, or when you're willing to have the allowance, there's still so many conclusions attached to that. You know, it's like, I have the allowance, but only if it was in this way. Right? It was like, there's always that little stickiness around the allowance.
That's called an interesting point of view.
which is more of a judgment around the allowance, right? It's like fooling ourselves. Yeah. And I think that's a space where, at least for me, it's actually living allowance. Because whenever I do that, I'm like, oh, right, I'm fooling myself that I'm an allowance, where I'm actually going into judgment, or I'm actually walking into conclusions and thinking that I'm an allowance. And that's a space which actually would have me continuously, literally nudging me at the back that, hey, woman, this is not allowance.
That's awesome.
And I think that's what,
interesting point of view is a really amazing parenting tool.
Totally. Totally.
Absolutely. It's essential.
Yeah, it is. I mean, without that, one could actually only be living in judgment of your kids and of yourself then. It doesn't really create anything at all, right?
Yeah, and the judgment of the kids, like that's part of what came up for me this morning is my son, my youngest son, he's extremely autistic, and he doesn't in the like X-Men sense of the word. and he doesn't, school is not so fun for him, and he does a lot of stuff with his body, um, and just really, 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 really aware of everybody and thinks that it's all his. And this morning he woke up, and he was up very late last night. And so that's something I'm like, okay, being an allowance of when my kids go to bed, they always stay up really.
One again. Yeah.
And then, they in the morning they're exhausted, and it's, work getting them up and stuff. And so this morning he woke up and he was like, I have a stomach ache. And I'm like, okay, I know that's not actually true.
Oh yeah.
And then he told me that he threw up, and I knew that wasn't true either. And he's sleeping in his bed right now. He didn't go to school, and I'm still in question of, okay, so what do I do here? And we got into the car, and my older son said, I know he didn't throw up. And I was like, I know he didn't either. And he goes, well, why didn't you just tell him you knew that and make him go to school? And I said, because confronting a lie never creates.
Never really works. Yeah.
Manipulating is actually a much better tool in this situation. And I'm not sure what the manipulation is quite yet. So I'm just letting it be.
Probably keep his favorite food away from him for maybe a week. Make sure he never does that again.
Must have had too much. That's brilliant. I love it. Because he had Coke last night. So sorry, I don't think Coke and sugar is actually going to work here for
right?
you.
I don't think you can have that anymore. It's really funny because I remember when my older one was about 6, and she'd gone into school after, leaving her nursery. And then she was like, Mom, I have a really bad tummy ache. And she would hold her head and she'd go, Mom, I have a really bad tummy ache. And I would wonder, why is she holding her head and saying tummy ache? And I asked her, Isha, where's your tummy ache? She'd say, here, Mom, here. I said, right, I know your tummy ache. Yeah,
awesome.
They come up with all these cute little ones to just try and get their way. Yeah, Heather, I'd actually love to talk to you about, I know that you are also an X-Men facilitator, and I'd love to know about how, parenting is different for kids who are X-Men, for the parents who are, who have children who are autistic and who have that ADHD, and it is a challenge when you don't have the tools, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean,
yeah.
This is where, when you don't have the tools, it's all about judgment. It's all about this reality. It's all about, and, my kids are both autistic, and so am I. And it's not, this isn't, I had no idea that I was autistic until some conversations with Gary Douglas, but it was, from an X-Men perspective, so an X-Men, and it's funny because I don't even really like to define, quote unquote, what X-Men are.
Right.
Gary gave a really great description of X-Men at the advanced body class last week. He said, X-Men are basically humanoids extreme. So
yeah, totally.
And if you don't know what a humanoid is, it's like probably everybody here on this call. It's, people who don't, we tend to judge ourselves more, like humans tend to judge this way, like out, the judgment goes this way. For humanoids, it goes this way. So you judge yourself rather than other people, and have a lot of awareness and are very different and tend to be, sort of make themselves wrong for how different they are. And so that extreme, and there's more to it than that, but that on steroids basically. And so X-Men have this very dynamic awareness, and they don't have they don't do linearity very well. They don't do linearity at all. And they actually don't really know how to do judgment, but what they do know how to do is mimic other people's judgments. And because we tend to make it about ourselves, we have this awareness of the judgments of others, and we turn it this way, and so X-Men, it's like and so people who have autism have a spherical awareness. So there's no linearity, there's no time there's no time, like past, present, and future are all occurring simultaneously in the awareness of an X-Men. And so it's this sense of like, you're perceiving everything all at once. And it's an intensity of awareness that can be really difficult to handle. And it's a brilliance as well. I mean, X-Men are very brilliant. And, but if you don't know, like my older son is failing at math and he's really good at math. He's really, both my kids are really good at math. And luckily he has a teacher who who gets that, so she's encouraging him, to just step it up. But he's bored, he's because he's like aware of so much. He's so smart. He's so fast. The other thing is X-Men are very fast. We function like with a speed, and humanoids as well, that is so unlike the rest of the world, which is why it's called ADD, ADHD, all that stuff. And when you don't know that, because I don't look autistic, I wouldn't be diagnosed as autistic. My kids either, they look normal, they function in school, but there's this intensity and potency and immensity in a way of awareness that they have that, like with my son who's here right now, it's like, I'm sure there's a million things going on in his world that he's aware of, and bodies that he's aware of, and bodies that he's facilitating that he doesn't know he's facilitating. And when you don't have these tools, you have to look at it through the lens of this reality and be like, oh, he's pretending to be sick because he's lazy. He doesn't want to go to school, and there's a greatness there that you miss and that's really one of my favorite things about the X-Men conversation is it's this like constant flipping of everywhere that you've decided that you're wrong and getting that it's actually strong. Like you are strong. This is where you like everywhere you've made yourself wrong is where you are actually really strong. So I could make this wrong. He could make this wrong. Or I could go, wow, he's aware of a lot here. He's aware of something today. There's something going on with his body today. I wonder what it is. I wonder what I can contribute to him. I wonder what we could do, create, what I could ask him, what I could manipulate, that would actually allow him to have more ease with this, so there's a lot of information about X-Men that people just don't have. And when you have an X-Men kid, holy shit, my kids, when they were little, they would literally bounce off the walls. And I mean, literally, like I just repainted my whole basement because there were holes all over my brand new house when I moved in. And there was like, 4 or 5 years later, there was probably like 80 little holes in the wall downstairs. And it's this room where there's no furniture and literally just thunk, 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 it's like this, and I was just like, what the hell do I do with this? But this information so you asked for tools. How do we deal when something shows like this?
Actually, that's me. I asked for the tools. Okay, Reshma, I've just logged into Chandana's account.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your name?
My name's Reshma George.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I know there's 2 Chandanas.
So Reshma handles actually, she is this fabulous lady out there who handles everything back end for Isha and me. And she makes sure everyone gets their replays on time, everybody gets registered on time. So she does all of that stuff that we run away from.
Cool.
That's how she's logged in from my account too.
Yeah, that's great. I love having people in my life like that. It's like, what a gift.
Thank you. And so when you said that your son was, you are aware that there's a lot of stuff going on in your son's life, and like he's probably facilitating somebody, or all of that. And he's manipulating you into believing something wrong with, like, he doesn't want to go to school because of something, right?
Right. Well, he is.
So what are the tools?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So what are the tools you could use in that situation where you know something, but at the same time, something else is showing up? How do you get...
You cut out. Did you say, how do you get clarity on that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sorry, I think my internet is wonky, so that's why I've turned off my video so that it's clearer.
Yeah, that's good. Were you going to say something, Chandana?
no, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so this is where, you know, knowing what you know is really like not going into doubt. That's a huge one. And it's, you know, like Chandana, I was saying in the beginning, like this whole thing of like, oh, this is actually the area that you can't fuck up in life because the stakes are too high, kind of a thing. That can actually really turn up our like tendency and propensity to do doubt. So everything that is, everywhere that you do extra doubt as a parent, just to make sure you really don't mess anything up. Doubt on steroids.
And you're being even a better parent.
Yeah. We destroy and create all of that.
Yes, please.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, shorts, boys and beyonds. So, and it's really, doubt is design. It's a distractor implant. So it's literally an implant that is like put into your world, designed specifically to keep you from your potency and to keep you from the potency of awareness that you have and be. Your awareness is your greatest parenting tool. Greatest parenting tool. And you, I mean, Gary said one time to me, you know, your job as a parent is to actually be a facilitator of your kids, you know? And I look at that and I'm like, okay, so if I was facilitating my children, not parenting, you know, what would I ask them right now? What would I do right now? What would I say? You know, so with this situation this morning, I'm actually asking myself the same thing. Okay, so what can I, so interesting point of view. I have this point of view about what he's choosing. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view that he's missed too much school. Interesting point of view. I have the point of view that he's never going to do anything, you know, because there's all these points of view. And when you've got points of view, you can't get to your awareness. Like it's like, it's this barrier to your awareness and what you know. So that's an amazing tool. And then you can just also pock and pod, you know, clear anything that's going on. So, okay. So for me this morning, okay. So everything I've decided about him and this situation, I'm going to destroy and uncreate it. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, pod, shorts, boys and beyonds, you know? And because I know that I have points of view here. And so working with that, you know, and what I've done this morning is gone, okay, well, I'm going to take a moment here, you know, before I go and he's sleeping and that's fine. So before I handle this, and I also, you know, one of the things I did was I just chose to make it easy on me, which is a huge thing that I do that you're not allowed to do as a parent. So I went, okay, well, what's going to create the greatest ease for me is if I just take my other son to school and do what I need to do this morning, you know? And that is also going to give me some space to look at how I want to address this, you know? And the thing is that, so, and it's interesting because when you see yourself as a facilitator of your kids, you know, I'm a facilitator and I do this full time and I've been doing it for a long time. And I know as a facilitator that I don't actually facilitate people when they're not asking me questions. You know, that's like one of the greatest unkindnesses and one of the ways that we disempower people the most is when we facilitate them when they haven't asked for it. So that applies to my kids too, you know, and yet, you know, I'm like, okay, I would like to also create this as a situation that works for me, you know, and he may not choose to change. He may not choose to acknowledge how aware he is, you know, he's not really asking me questions. And so whenever I can, I toss in little moments of awareness or tools or things, or, you know, I take them to class with me a lot. And so my kids are exposed to these tools, you know, and they can ask questions. Actually, I'm like, welcome to an X-Men's brain.
Chandana,
Chandana,
I have a question.
Right.
Yeah, Chandana, hi.
Yes,
I have
please.
a question.
Hi, Kanika.
Yeah, hi. So what can I do to make my children stop having cookies and chocolates and junk?
Give it on up.
I know I have a point of view regarding it. And it's like, you know, they demand for chocolates, they demand for like cookies, which is one thing I really don't want to give them every day.
Well, you can't make your kids do anything, just saying. Even if you're Indian, you can't make your kids do anything.
And even if you try really hard.
What's that?
No, the thing is, I give them like choices in terms of, you know, like quote unquote healthy versus non-healthy food, but they just lurch towards, you know, cookies and ice creams. And it's funny because no amount of me stopping them has ever stopped them.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the value of making yourself crazy about it?
Just that chocolates are not good.
Yeah, well, that's a point of view. So I'll just say this. You can't make your kids do anything. Your children chose you because you and their dad are the two people in the world that cannot actually control them. So if you acknowledge that, like, you're going to have a lot more ease, because anywhere you want to control your children, will you please destroy and create 0.5% of that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, give, bad, online, backwatch, shirts, boys and beyond.
You're not asking for much, Etha.
So what do I do? Just make them
0.5%.
0.5%, yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, you're like, I can't actually answer your question because you can't stop your kids from eating sugar. So I can't give you a tool for that. What I can say is that humanoids and X-Men our bodies actually require a lot of sugar and a lot of salt sometimes, right? Sugar, salt, water, and energy. If you've taken a bars or a foundation class, you may have heard. Those are kind of the food groups for humanoids. Our bodies are different. X-Men bodies are even more different. They require salt, sugar, water, and energy. They don't necessarily require broccoli as much as they do sugar. And it depends, you know. But if you have points of view about anything, your kids will resist those points of view. So if you're like, you can't, no chocolate, no chocolate, no chocolate, no chocolate, then they're like, chocolate, 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 right? Yeah. So I let my kids really feed themselves. I am so bad of a mom that I hardly ever cook for my kids. They feed themselves. And if I have an awareness that their bodies are really asking for, like, you know, some meat or some vegetables, or I cook a really awesome dinner that I know they'll eat, and I put it in front of them and they eat it, you know. But it's always been that way here. We have tons of candy in my house. We have lots of salty snacks. I get that my children's bodies require that. And my son Jaden eats a lot of sugar. He was drinking a Coke at midnight last night. I'm a really bad mom because my 11-year-old drank a Coke at midnight, and I live in Boulder, Colorado, which is like the organic capital of the world, where you're not allowed to do that. So,
you're a really bad mom.
I'm so bad. And he woke up throwing up this morning, probably because I let him have Coke at night, you know.
Absolutely. In Colorado, being a mom from Colorado. Oh my God.
But the thing is that any point of view you have, anything you want your kids to do, anything you don't want them to do, they will do the opposite. I promise you. That's what humanoids and X-Men do. They do the opposite of what people want them to do, which is why the way you motivate a humanoid is tell them that they can't do something, right? Same with your kids, right? You can't have chocolate? Oh, yes, I will, you know? So, you know, do whatever you want to do with that information, but you may find that if you let go of your point of view about the sugar and the chocolate and you're like, here it is, you know, and you also like, I'll also like chop up cucumbers and carrots and just put them out on the counter. I keep a thing of pistachio nuts on my counter all the time where my kids sit and watch their videos and stuff. So if they're hungry, if they want to eat something, there's pistachios right in front of them, you know? And I trust their bodies. Like I trust their bodies. And this is the thing is really kind of an overarching theme with this here is that if you don't trust your children to create their lives, literally, even when they're 1 or 3, or, you know, they're infinite beings. They're not little kids. They're infinite beings. And if you treat them as little children who don't know what they're doing, who have to be guided by you, you know, that is one of the most incredibly disempowering things that you can do for your kids. If you treat them as, hey, we're all 4 trillion years old, you know, or more. We're all infinite beings here. We've chosen to hang out together in this lifetime. What do you know about you and your life, child, you know? And if you approach your kids with that space, that allowance, that point of view, that lack of point of view, really, they will be empowered to actually choose what works for them. And you have to let them make a lot of mistakes, and you have to let them do things that you know aren't going to create greater for them. And you have to let them flail and fuck up. And so one of my favorite parenting clearings that Gary gave me years ago in my first facilitator class was, what energy, space, and consciousness can you be to stop protecting your kids for all eternity? And everybody in the room was like, oh, even the people that didn't have kids, you know?
Oh my God, I love that one. Totally.
Yeah. So everything that doesn't allow that, we destroy and uncreate it.
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, pud, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And that I ran it and ran it and ran it and ran it. And it changed how I saw my kids, how I saw parenting, how I saw my role in their life. And anytime I go to protection of them, I stop. Because what happened when I ran that clearing a lot and when I stopped protecting them was my kids calmed down, they relaxed, they became more empowered, they were easier to be around, they were easier to deal with. Because there was this like anxiety in their world of like, oh my God, I need to be protected. I can't possibly know what I know and know that I know. I need to be protected, you know? And I was like, no, you don't. Like, we're done with that now, you know? And you're an infinite being and you chose me. And what can we create that's beyond this reality? What can we create here that really, you know, has never existed before? And what can I be to these 2 incredible beings that I get to be the quote unquote mom of, to create greater in their world and in the world for everybody. And that's probably not going to look like what this reality says parenting is. So what do you guys actually know about parenting, quote unquote?
So in fact, there's a question here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me just finish this question. That you've never allowed yourself to know, and you've never acknowledged that you know, that if you allowed yourself to know it, be it, live from and as it, would change everything for you, for your kids, and for the world. And everything that is, we destroy it and create it.
Yes, please.
Right, wrong, good, bad, all name, puck, punch, shorts, boys, and rounds. Yes, please stop me because I just go.
Wow. No, that was so wonderful. Thank you for that. And in fact, if I can come in here, Heather, one thing that really works for me is trying reverse psychology with the kids. So, you know, when we tell them, don't eat chocolates, they want to eat the chocolates. So try telling them, hey, you want another chocolate for lunch? And they're like, what happened to you, Mom? Where's my lunch? Try that for a few days. It just might work.
Yeah, like you don't get
it just might work.
Only have chocolate for the next 2 days. Nothing. You're not allowed to eat anything other than chocolate.
Yeah.
Here you go. Put it out on the table like a huge bowl of chocolate. Like, here's your food for the next 2 days, kids. Have at it.
And you know, the tool, interesting point of view is, I think, the go-to tool.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Maria has a question. Maria, if you could unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hi. Yes. Thank you so much. Did your kids ever start hitting you? My daughter's 3, and she starts kicking me and things like that. Here she is. She can be the sweetest child. She's kind, and she says, I love you so much, and hugs and kisses. And yet sometimes when she doesn't get her way, or when she's trying to force something, she'll kick me.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if you have ever come across that and what you did about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things I could say about that. Are you willing to turn up your energy to match her potency when she does that? And I don't mean hit her, but
Yes. And in what way would you increase your potency or amp it up?
Well, just for one, just ask, you know, what energy, space, and consciousness can I be to match this, you know, or to outcreate this even. Because sometimes, so what is she aware of? And she may or may not be open to questions. And even at 3, you know, sometimes when they're not as cognitive as like my, you know, 11-year-old would be like, fuck you, Mom, don't ask me questions.
Mommy, I love you.
What do you know? What?
Oh, I love you. I love you. She's
I love you too. Hey, beautiful. So what do you know?
wow.
I think I had a head, Mommy. Hey, Mommy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's another question here. Is that, are you happy with that, Maria? Did you get your answer?
Yes.
Your answers? You're not getting them here, right?
To match it or
create
it without violence.
Yeah. That's a great, that's a beautiful clearing.
I mean, you might throw yourself down on the ground and like throw a tantrum, or, you know, just be like, "Rawr!" You know, like something like, so what is she asking you to step into when she does that?
When she does that, well, I get that she's asking to get her way, or
but
you know, like when she likes.
Yeah. So I would just even like start asking that, because it's not going to be from this reality. Like, she wants her way, so she's hitting me. It's like she's aware of something. So our kids also facilitate us. Like, you guys probably, you know, you may have noticed that. Our kids facilitate us dynamically. So what's she asking you to be and to step into that you've been refusing? Something that doesn't allow you to be, no, perceive, and receive that. Will you just start and clear it?
Yes.
Right, wrong, give, battle, name, puck, punch, shirts, boys and beyonds.
Yep. Okay.
Wow.
Well, thank you. I appreciate any other insights, and I'm thankful to be here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Amazing being she is.
That was such a fabulous clearing that you just gave, Heather. When you said that our kids often facilitate us, and then you asked her to ask, what is she facilitating me into? And asking me to choose. Yeah, I mean, how often do our kids do that when we make it a wrongness? Because they're actually facilitating us by making us look at something that we have, that could probably, if we were willing to look at and choose it, could probably change our life, right? Our reality in every way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just so easy to go into the wrongness of it and say, that's not the way you're supposed to behave.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also it's because some people just let their kids hit them and kick them, and that's not okay. Like, we need to actually also show our kid, like, when you're actually willing to honor you with your kids, that's an amazing gift to them. And if they're hitting you and you're letting them, you're not honoring you. You're not showing them what it is to honor you, that it's valuable to honor you. And they don't actually see, like, they translate that into their own world. You know, it's like, well, I don't need to honor myself. I don't need to honor other people. So there's also a demand of, hey, this doesn't work for me. And there's a lot of things that I do with my kids, whether it's, you know, my kids have never really hit me, but like, just how they are with each other, or like how they are with the house, like, you know, just being honoring of like things in our space and the space and things like that, where I'm like, this is what works for me. And I've been a single mom, you know, for most of it. And my house is always immaculate. And it's not like an order thing. It's actually like a demand that I have to live in a beautiful space. And my kids know that. And it's like, okay, so we've also like set it up so that it, you know, their stuff has a place to go and all of that. But it's just one of those things where I'm like, no, just because I have kids doesn't mean I have toys all over my house, you know?
Right.
That doesn't work for me, you know? So what can I create that actually allows them to have their toys? They don't have toys anymore, but, you know, and that works for me. And when you're willing to show up with that level of regard for you as a parent with your kids, it changes it. They become different. I mean, it just changes their world, and it changes the world, because who does that? You know?
Right. Yes, absolutely. There's a question here from Niru. She's asking, what's the difference between parenting and facilitating the kids?
Well, facilitation is to make easier, to contribute to somebody in such a way that it makes their life, you know, greater ease. So what can you be and do with your kids that contributes to the ease of their life? And again, you know, it's interesting because not everybody's asking for ease. Not everybody's asking for facilitation. So, you know, if you're running around asking your kids questions when they're not asking you to facilitate them, that is one of the most superior, asshole, disempowering things that you can do with anybody, you know, including your own children. And yet there's ways, I mean, even just like what I was just talking about, like going, my house is lovely and clean, you know, and that's an honoring of me. And so that's a facilitation. It's like, I'm making my world easier and my life easier and showing them a different possibility, you know, or like being willing to be potent when your kids are asking you to be potent, you know, it's like that. So because so much of facilitation is actually energetic. That beautiful little girl just changed the world without really a whole lot of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So acknowledge that it's not about you being like, well, who does that belong to? You know, that's annoying. I have teenagers, I can tell you, like, annoyance is a big one in their worlds right now. But it's don't be a dick with your kids. Basically, like, don't facilitate them when they aren't asking for it. And yet, if you be something different, and you be something different with you and with them, it will change things.
And sometimes, if I can say it here, sometimes kids are just wanting to be kids. So there are times when I go into that, that space of, oh, my kids need me to facilitate them. They both look at me and they say, can you just be mom for like 5 minutes? Totally. And I'm like, okay, I'll just be mom. Sometimes that's all that's actually required, right? It's like, all right, I'll be whatever energy you want. You are asking for me to be.
Yeah. That just reminds me too, like one of my favorite sort of like tools that's not a tool is I realized years ago, I was like, my kids really require my body, like my body and my being, and so sometimes like facilitating my kids is like, we'll just like snuggle up in my bed and watch a movie, and that's like, it's like this space, like we don't even talk a lot, me and my kids, like we be this space with each other and like our bodies be with each other. And it's beyond this reality. It doesn't require a lot of conversation. And so sometimes it's just that, and, just like snuggling with them or hanging out with them, or I run their bars a lot. They run my bars a lot. One thing that I used to do a lot when they were little and they would fight a lot is I would pay them $20 each and they had to run each other's bars for 20 minutes. So just be like, hey, here you go, $20. The deal is you give and receive for 20 minutes and you can watch a TV show or whatever. And they would happily do it, and it would change. They'd stop fighting. It was worth
That's
$40.
Actually in connection to this question that Manisha is asking is, how do we outcreate my love for their love for gadget and how to overcome the sibling rivalry? So that's exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, that's a really brilliant, if they will. And, running bars for kids, my kids just like stick their hands, especially when they were younger, they just put their hands behind your ears and they just run, it's not like you have to teach them the points and stuff. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What was the other question?
Sasha has a question. Sasha, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. Hi, Heather. Hi, Chandana. Hi, Reshma.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm truly grateful for this call because as a kid, this is giving me so much of awareness around how I could even deal with my parent who's now a kid to me. So it's very, very interesting how it's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for this call. Okay, so Heather, you mentioned something wherein you said that X-Men have, humanoids have different bodies and their body requirements are different. And then you said that X-Men have different bodies. So can you please elaborate on that a little more? Like what?
Yeah, it's sort of like I said, like X-Men are just sort of humanoids extreme, like an extreme version of humanoids. But X-Men bodies and humanoid bodies have a lot of capacities that are beyond this reality. And we have mimicked, like we've made our bodies human bodies and we've mimicked human reality with our bodies. So that's one of the ways where we use our capacities to be any energy, really, is one of them. Like our bodies have a capacity to be lots of different energies. And we use that against us by mimicking the limited reality of human bodies, right?
Yeah.
So everything that brings up. Let's just go right and create it.
Yes, please.
So yeah, our bodies have capacities to heal. They have capacities to facilitate. They have capacities to shapeshift, to change, like the 9 trannies. If you're familiar with that, that's a lot of X-Men capacities to create in ways that are not definable, defined, or have no context in this reality. Yeah. And so really it's about experience. It's not like I can say, well, X-Men bodies know how to do blah, 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 It's like, what are the capacities with my humanoid body or my X-Men body that I've never considered? What capacities does it have beyond this reality? Because anything beyond this reality is not definable. So you can't really put words to it, but you can ask about it and start to perceive it and start to be it. And one of the greatest gifts for really exponentializing the gifts of humanoid embodiment for me has been the body processes in access consciousness and the advanced body processes. I take that class, the advanced body class, as often as I can. And every single time my whole life changes, my whole, like everything that I'm creating changes. So it's not just about like what we think of as our body. Embodiment is actually the embodiment of everything.
Yeah.
And like including physical reality and beyond it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Well, that was
and what
wonderful.
Do you know? Yeah, just what do you know? Like that's, if you're just like with all of this, you guys, like parenting, bodies, X-Men, what do you know that you've not allowed yourself to know? And what if you just even gave yourself like a day? I love playing with this tool. It's like, okay, I'm going to give myself a day, or I'm going to give myself an hour to just know what I know, and pretend for today, like everything that you know is actually like quote unquote accurate. Like you don't like, so give yourself a day off from doubt, and just be like, I'm just going to function just today. Like everything I know is what I know. And even if I don't know that I know it, I'm just going to know that I know it. That's a great question for kids too. When I go, if I do ask my kids questions and I'll go, what do you know about that? And then my son will go, Jaden especially, he'll go, I don't know. And then I'll say, well, if you did know, what would you know? And then usually there's something there. So you can do that with yourself too. And you can do, it's a great question with your kids.
Well, thank you for that. That was awesome.
That is really wonderful. So we have a question from Kanika too. She's asking, how can we ask the kids, where did it go? To be not over dependent on parents.
Well, you have to, it's your point of view that creates that. Kids are infinite beings. I mean, we're all infinite beings. So as an infinite being, would an infinite being be over dependent? No, not at all. So if you've created that, your reality with your kids, then what do you need to be and do to change it? And you could just be asking that. And part of it also goes back to that, like if you've been parenting from the point of view that if you've been parenting from parenting and not facilitation, like parenting from the point of view that you have to protect your kids and get them to do things and guide them. And I mean, you do guide them, but that you have to protect your kids, then it creates an anxiety in their world. Sometimes energetic, sometimes more emotional, but that they need you. They really, 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 really need you because they are not okay on their own, and when you let go of that point of view and you're willing to be like, all right, like if you're going to go out and fuck up your life, then okay, and of course, don't let a 3-year-old run out into the street. If they run out into the street, run after them, so there's that. But, so it's not about just letting them like kill themselves, but really, letting go of that point of view of protection, and it changes their world. Anytime you let go of a point of view about anything in regards to anybody, that person will suddenly change simply because your point of view is different, and your point of view creates what shows up in your life.
Right. That was awesome. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Thank you for your questions.
I have something to share.
Yes. Is that Rekha? Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, so Heather is coming to India for all of you. It's a good news that she is coming to India for a bunch of classes.
Awesome!
Yay!
I'm very excited.
Yay!
I love India. I haven't been there in like 6 or 7 years. I'm so excited to come. We don't know exactly when we're coming. I'm coming in October, November. Yeah. And probably have we're looking at Delhi and Mumbai, but still finalizing that and what classes. And I've had some people ask me to do an X-Men class, so I may do that. I do one day X-Men classes, but I do lots of different classes. So we'll see what pops, and we'll keep you guys posted. So
that would be so awesome. And how did India get so lucky? That is wonderful. Yeah.
Welcome to India.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys. India is, when I was there, I think it was like 2012 or something. I was like, can we just stay for like 6 months? I just wanted to like stay and keep going and keep exploring. It was such a special place and such special people. I just love you all. Thank you so much for you.
We love you too.
Thank you. Yeah, that is so wonderful. Awesome. So do we have any more questions, guys? Or are
There's
we good?
one from Elba.
Elba, yes, darling.
Yeah. Elba, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yes, please. Well, I'm from Brazil. I'm talking from Rio de Janeiro. And I have a question about parenting a teenager girl that has oppositional and defiant behavior, and sometimes puts herself in risky and dangerous situations, and she does not accept command, order, and for me it's still very difficult to be in the state of permission, because it's not only about to not give her command, but she, in fact, she wants to give me orders. So in some cases, I think that I'm allowed in the state more of allowance about many things, but it is still very hard to me to allow everything. I cannot do it. And
does she let you run her bars?
Well, sometimes she does not want. In fact, I started with access because of her, and I did it at the beginning. I hired someone to do it with her because there was a lot of resistance. And afterward, when I learned to do the bar, I did it sometimes. And many other times she did not accept it. I also, so during 1 year, I started last year in January, I have made many courses and advanced courses. So also I had learned to do ECOP sessions. I did some with her, but many times, sometimes she's very resistant, and it changed a lot the how do I say, the mood, the behavior. So she can be very nice and then become a little bit aggressive and change completely, and you want to be in the control all the time. So it's very tough sometimes to deal with it.
Yeah. I have to go in like 1 minute. I have a session in 2 minutes. So,
okay.
But, and Chandana, maybe you may want to address this too. I would just say anywhere that you have made her wrong and the system is making her wrong with a diagnosis and all of that, would you be willing to destroy and uncreate all of that?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, only, puck, putt, shirts, boys, men. Because there's nothing, like, how potent and powerful is your daughter? And it may be that there's nowhere, she doesn't know how to be that in the world and what to do with that in the world. And there's like, she's an X-Men. X-Men have a lot of intensity in their world, and they don't know what to do with it, So what I would encourage you to really be in the question of what's right about her and what's right about this. And, if she's open to it as well. So I'm sorry, I have to jump off, but this has been really lovely. Thank you, Chandana, and everybody.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for being on this call. I know it's been a huge contribution to everyone who's been on. It's been a huge contribution to me. And thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for hopping on.
Thank you.
I hope to see you guys in the fall.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
And thank you guys for being on. Like I always say, these calls are never possible without all of you hopping on.
Thank you for creating them.
Oh, thank you, baby. Thank you, Sasha. And darling Elba, if I can say another thing to you here, honey, if it's a
Yes,
contribution, would you like to run her
please.
BMM?
Yes.
There's so much of anger and hate and all this crazy stuff in the world. I mean, how much of that do the kids buy mimic? So would you just like to run her BMM probably and see if that could change something for her?
Okay.
All right? Yeah.
Because
So
sometimes
thank you.
I'm very angry. Sometimes I'm
Yeah,
very angry.
right. Yeah. So how much of your anger does she pick up and project back at you?
Oh, I don't know because I work with myself almost all the time about it, and she knows how to press my buttons.
Oh yeah, they all
And
do, right? Yeah.
yes. So the point is not to only do not like to be controlled, but she likes a lot to control. So I resisted a lot about it because, well, in this lifetime, I have the right to play the role of her mother. And sometimes if she does not get what she wants, she became very, how do I say, very sometimes aggressive, very insistent, and rest a lot to get what he wants.
Right.
So it's very
So
energy
like Heather said, what if you could pardon Puck all those projections and points of views that you have about
I
what she's
do
going to
it.
do
I
next?
do it. I do
Right?
it. I
Yeah.
do it.
And what if
But
that
I
could,
spend.
what if,
Okay, go ahead, please.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Right? And what if you could Puck and pot, hi, gorgeous. And what if you could Puck and pot it by actually saying that, you know, what else is possible beyond what I am projecting on her? What if you were willing to receive what else is possible beyond everything that you're actually projecting on your child?
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to run because I have a flight off to Rome
you.
tonight, guys, for the CF. And I hope that helps, Elba.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I love you guys. See you soon.
Thank you,
For the next one.
Chandana.
Thank you,
I love you all.
Chandana.
Bye,
Bye.
Chandana.
Thank you, sweetheart. Bye, love.
Happy facilitators.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Shilpi. Thank you, everybody. Bye.